ready, let your eyes open. Namaste, everybody. Thanks so much for coming to class today. All right, so we're going to start standing up and we're going to go to a wall. You don't need to bring a mat. We just need to find a wall. So let's go ahead and come on up. And the first thing we're going to do is just bring your elbow up onto the wall. We'll do a little pectoral stretch first. See if you can find a way to be just nice and tall. So as I stand here, I want to make sure I'm not like leaning at a bit of an angle here. So standing as tall as you can, forearm on the wall, and then you're just going to pivot your feet away from your arm or the wall, and just keep a little bit of a lift up in the chest. Press back through the inner thighs and then pull the low belly up. And this is a big one for this twist. Push down in the lower ribs. Pull the sides of the neck back. You can even assist. So I'm using my other hand to assist and kind of pull my lower ribs down a little bit. And just breathe into that position a little. All right, and then we'll go ahead and release it. And we'll turn the other way. So pardon my back. Well, let me kind of go over here. This will be a little bit better. Okay, so forearm and elbow on the wall. And then again, make sure you're standing at a nice vertical line and then twist yourself, turning your feet away from the wall, away from your arm. You'll feel a back bend start to form probably as you twist. And then push back through your inner thighs, pull up in your lower belly, press down in the lower ribs, pull the sides of your neck back. And being in that position with as much effort or challenge or whatever it is that you're experiencing, just breathe into it and be with it for a moment or two. I find the sound of my breath to be very comforting when you're in a pose and you're doing something that's a little bit challenging. That breath coming back over and over again, very sweet. All right, so let's go ahead and release that. Now we're going to do a wall sit. So you can lean against the wall and go ahead and just walk your feet forward a little bit and slide down the wall. Yeah. All right, now in this position, push your inner thighs back so you get a little bit of an arch in your low back, and then pull your low belly in and up. Pull the low ribs down so that your mid back gets closer to the wall, and try to keep the shoulders back as your mid back is getting close to the wall as well. The center of the back of the head can touch the wall. Ujjayi breath. All right, let's go ahead and come on out. So go ahead and scoot your shoulders up the wall. Come on out if you haven't already. Okay. And then go ahead and come on back to your mat. And we'll start to do a little bit more movement here. So let's find mountain pose at the top of the mat. Bring your hands to prayer position. Go ahead and release the arms down alongside of you. Open the palms. Inhale, take your arms up and overhead. And exhale and come into your first forward fold. Nice long spine, bowing forward. Inhale, lengthen halfway forward, Arden Uttanasana. And exhale and fold in. Bending your knees, let's step right back with the right foot into a lunge. So just a high lunge position. Pushing down into the floor with the left foot and trying to lift up nicely on the inner right thigh. So you have a nice balance of energy between the front leg and the back leg. Let's step back to your first down dog. Feel free to pedal through your heels a little bit. Make sure your foundation is completely supporting you, pressing down through your index, middle, ring finger, knuckles, and the length of each finger. A strong commitment through your hands as you feel your hands supporting your weight. All right, let's shift forward into a plank position and go ahead and come right down to the floor. We'll come into a little Sphinx, so propping up on the forearms and the elbows. Pull back a little bit in your forearms and your hands isometrically. Pull the low belly in and up. Press the low ribs down. And then go ahead and come on down. Bring your hands alongside of the chest again. Curl your toes under. And with everything you know, keeping the shoulder heads lifted, go ahead and come on up to your downward facing dog. All of your alignment intact. And go ahead and just step your feet up to your hands, coming back to a forward bend. Open your palms forward. Inhale, reach the arms out and up and overhead. Bring your palms together and slide your hands to heart center. Release the arms down to your sides. Open the palms. Inhale, arms back up and overhead. Exhale, Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, lengthen halfway forward, Arden Uttanasana. Exhale, fold in, step back with your left foot into a high lunge. Just finding the basic form of the pose. Pushing down into the right foot and lifting up and the inner left thigh. So there's a nice, again, sense of balance between those actions of the front leg and the back leg. Not rushing through it, letting your body acclimate a little bit. Not thinking, oh, there's something better coming up. No, just, what if we just have this lunge? Gotta make it a good one, right? All right, now plant your hands, step on back to downward facing dog. Let's shift forward, come back into your plank pose, lower down to the floor. Let's take a little Cobra Pose here. Elbows in close to the side ribs. And lower down a little bit, curl your toes under, downward facing dog. Looking up at your hands, at the end of your exhale, either hop or step to forward fold. And bow forward, Uttanasana. Whew, those are some tight hamstrings I had today. Inhale, lengthen halfway forward, Arden Uttanasana. Exhale, fold in. Strong in the body, make the leg muscles strong as they lift up. Let your head shake out a little bit. All right, now bending the knees, slide the hands up the shins to the knees to come to a skier pose. Pull the belly in and up and take your arms up into chair pose, Uttanasana. Bring the arms out into a T position, turn the palms as upright as you can. So spin the thumbs back behind you. Pull the low belly in and up, push your low ribs down. Now bring your hands back behind you into a clasp. Lift your shoulder heads and roll them back. And then we're going to straighten the legs, stand up and tip forward. Uttanasana, bringing the arms up and overhead. Let your head release as much as possible. If it's a little bit too much for the hamstrings, please keep your knees bent or step your feet wider. Listen to the sound of your own breath as you work with your Ujjayi. And then slowly start to let the hands drop, hug your midline, and come on up to standing. Okay, release your hands. We're going to tap the body a little bit just to get things to wake up a little bit more. So bend your knees, take your hands to your right shin, and just tap it. And tap your calf muscles. And then go up and around the knee, thigh muscles, inner thigh. Get your hamstrings. And go to the other leg. Shin, outer shin, inner shin, calf muscles. Around the knee gently. Go up to the thigh. Get the hamstrings, thigh muscles. All right, now get the hips. And get the booty. And come around, tap your tummy gently. Up around the lower ribs. Tap the kidneys. And come up to the chest. If you feel like doing Carol Burnett Tarzan yell, feel free. All right, now tap your right traps with your left hand. Oh, not the neck. Tap the shoulder, down the right arm. Give yourself a little applause and then tap the inside of the right arm all the way up. Okay, and switch sides. So right hand to the left traps, all the way up the sides of the neck gently. Whew. Yeah, let's get some juice going in there. And then tapping down outside of the left arm to the hand. Tap the hands a little bit. And tap the inner left arm with the right hand. Bring the hands up. All right, now we're going to tap the neck, but just go from like a pat, like a slap. You're going to go to just the fingertips and lightly tap. Back of the neck. Go up to that occipital ridge. For those of you who did the neck and shoulder, the pandemic neck and shoulder thing with me, isn't that just so nice? Just tapping that occipital ridge. How the muscles there can get really, really fatigued with all of the devices that we're looking at. Now tapping around up to the temples and then taking your fingertips all the way up to the top of your head. And then spread your fingers kind of like spider hands and then just kind of massage your head with your fingertips like you were going to shampooing yourself. Yeah, you can let those thumbs find their way to the temples and around the ears. Massage the head a little bit. And then bring your fingertips around right to the center of the forehead so that you've got your fingers lined up vertically. And then pull away from the center of the forehead over toward the temples, and then pull that energy down the sides of the jaw, down to the chin, and then pull it down. And then take your fingertips and just a little bit of a massage right underneath your eye sockets. And see if your index fingers can find their way over to your jaw hinge. Drop your lower jaw, bottom teeth away from top teeth. And see if you can just kind of dig your index finger right into that jaw joint. And see what you got going on there. And just a little bit more time working your fingers down the inner edge of your bottom jaw. All right, and then release it. Now we're going to take the arms up on an inhale, up and overhead. And then gather energy, you can't see the top of my hands here. Gather energy up over your head with your hands, turning the palms down. Bend your knees and press down with your hands. So press that energy down toward the floor. We're going to do that 3 more times. Inhale, arms up and overhead. Exhale, press that energy down. Inhale, arms up and overhead. Exhale, press the hands down toward the floor. Inhale, arms up and overhead. Exhale, last time, pressing down toward the floor with the hands. Now, come on, just take yourself right into a forward fold here. And you can take one hand and literally just draw the shape of an infinity symbol as you offer the energies that you've loosened up on your physical body or anything that might have been just kind of hanging out in your field. Just offer those energies back down to the earth. They can be recycled and reused for good. Let your head release completely and shake it out. All right, now we're going to come back up to standing. Inhale, take your arms up and over your head. This time, take a hold of your right wrist with your left hand and tip yourself over to the left. Keep your abdomen strong. Keep your abdominal bracing intact. Inhale back to center. Take a hold of your left wrist and tip yourself over to the right. Then down into the side body a little bit. Strong belly. Come on back to center. Great, and release the arms down. Okay, so we'll move through a few more sun salutations here. So hug your feet now toward the midline and just see how you feel with your hands in prayer position. After doing a little bit of that work, just kind of enlivening the body and invigorating the body with new energy. On your next exhale, release your arms. Open the palms, inhale, take your arms up and overhead. Exhale, Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, Arden Uttanasana, lengthen forward. Exhale, fold in. Plant your hands, step back to plank pose. Lower to the floor. Take a Cobra Pose or whatever back bend you feel. And come on up and back to downward facing dog. Please lift your right leg up behind you. On your exhale, bring it forward and through into a high lunge, and we'll make it a crescent lunge. So go ahead and come on up, arms up and overhead. Release the hands to the floor. Step right back to plank pose. Come right through a vinyasa. So lower down. Take another back bend. Curl your toes under. Come on back to down dog. Let's lift the left leg up behind. On your exhale, bring it forward and through into a high lunge position. When you feel balanced, come on up, crescent lunge. Strong back leg. Sitting deeply in the front leg. Hands to the floor. Plank pose. Lower down. Take your Cobra Pose. If you're like upward dog, feel free to go there. If you prefer Sphinx pose, that's fine as well. Good. Curl your toes under, downward facing dog. End of your exhale, hop or step to forward fold. Bowing over the legs. Inhale, lengthen halfway forward. Exhale, fold in. We'll come back up to standing. Inhale, reach the arms out. Up you go. Palms together, overhead, slide your hands to your heart. And let's release the arms. Open the palms. Inhale, arms up and overhead. Exhale, forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, lengthen halfway forward, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale and fold in. Plant your hands, step right to plank pose. Hug your midline. Now, elbows are going to pull in toward the midline a little bit, so you're externally rotating the upper arms, but the elbows are pulling in. Roll over your feet just a little bit and bend your elbows about 5 inches. Keep the shoulder heads lifted, abdomen strong. Straighten the arms and press back to your down dog. Lift your right leg up behind you. Exhale, bring it forward and through. Come into a high lunge. Back up to crescent lunge, arms up and overhead. Lean back a little bit as you pull the belly up and the low ribs down. So making this a little more of a back bend than the last one. And release, hands to the floor. Plank pose. Let's lower to the floor this time. Take your back bend. Downward facing dog. Lift the left leg. On your exhale, bring it forward and come on into a high lunge position with the legs. Bring yourself back up to crescent lunge. Finding the position of the pose, but now that you've been here a couple times, pull the belly in and up, push the ribs down, and lean your body back a little bit, adding a little smidge of a back bend. Keeping the belly strong as you do it. Release the hands to the floor. Step back to plank pose, lower down to the floor. Let's take a Cobra Pose. Curl your toes under, downward facing dog. End of your exhale, hop or step to the top of the mat. Forward fold. Inhale, lengthen halfway. Exhale, fold in. Open the palms and come on up to standing, arms up and overhead. Slide your hands to heart center. Release your arms and just feel. What's your body telling you now? All right, hands to prayer position in front of the heart. So with the hands here, let your thumbs rest right at your heart center. And just ask your heart, what do you need? What do you want to express now? And as you ask this of your heart, is there a disconnect between the heart and what gets expressed in the throat? Is there a disconnect between what the heart says and what the head says? And somewhere in between those two places, there's a complete conundrum in the throat. So release the arms down. Just turn the palms forward and just feel that, just for about 10, 15 seconds here. So just notice whatever you notice, bring your hands back to prayer position. Thanking the universe or your higher self for providing this information to you so that you can work with it. And we'll move the body a little bit more and see what shows up. So take an inhale. Exhale, release the arms. Open the palms, take your arms up and overhead. Exhaling into forward fold, Uttanasana. Inhale, lengthen halfway forward, Arden Uttanasana. Exhale, fold in. Plant your hands, hop or step to plank pose. Take a vinyasa. Find your back bend. And come on up to down dog. Please lift your right leg up behind you. This time bend the knee, open up through the hip a little bit. Bringing the right heel a little closer to the bottom. Pressing the left hand down and forward strongly as you pull back in the outer left hip. Now exhale, bring your right foot forward into a lunge position. This time we'll make it side angle stretch. So spin your back heel down to the floor. Bring your right elbow up onto the leg and take your left arm alongside of the ear. Trikonasana. Bring it on up to warrior two, arms out and parallel to the floor. Drop the back hand to the back thigh, tip your front palm up and lean back. Come back to warrior two. Come back to side angle, elbow on the thigh, left arm alongside of the ear. And then we'll take this pose a little bit deeper. So if the right hand can come to either to the ankle or to the floor inside the right foot, take your left arm straight up into a wingspan and pull that outer right hip crease back a little bit. Now can this left arm come back behind you? Slide the back of the hand either to the sacrum or all the way around toward the right hip, rolling the left shoulder back. Work your glutes, press down into that right heel and wrap your glutes underneath you. Make your belly strong, low belly lifts. Pull the low ribs down and the sides of the neck back. All right, let's go ahead and release. Spin the hands to the floor, picking up the back heel to come into a high lunge, and let's straighten the right leg. So lift the hips, pull the hips back. If you want to lift up your right toes and the ball of the foot, maybe you can take your right hand and literally pull back, getting into the calf muscles a little bit. Woo. Keep your thigh muscles engaged as you get up into the hamstrings too. And then release, set the foot down. Plant the hands, plank pose. You need to skip the vinyasas, please do. Lower down. Take your back bend. Come on back up, downward facing dog. Let's lift the left leg, bend the knee, open up through the hip. Press down and forward strongly with that right hand and pull back in that outer right hip. On your exhale, swing your left foot forward and through, finding your lunge, and then spin the right foot to the floor and find your side angle stretch. Left elbow on the leg, right arm up alongside of the ear, Trikonasana. Finding the shape of the pose. Come right up to warrior two from here, arms out parallel to the floor. Strengthen the belly. Back hand to the back thigh, turn the front palm up, and then take the arm up, lean back. Come back to warrior two. Come back to side angle. Up arm alongside of the ear. Now let's take this side angle a little more deeply. Let's go ahead and take this left hand. Either you can hold your shin or you can take the hand to the floor. If you have a block and you want to use that, that's fine too. Then the right arm goes straight up into a wingspan. The left arm can press gently against the inner left leg to keep the leg externally rotating. Push down into your left heel and work those glutes a little bit. Now can this right arm come behind you? Maybe the hand wraps around and into the left thigh. Roll the head of that right arm bone back. Pull the low belly in and up. Press the low ribs down. Pull the sides of the neck back. Mula Bandha, Uddiyana Bandha, Jalandhara Bandha. Oh yeah. And then release. Go ahead and bring the hands to the floor. Picking up the back heel, and we'll start to straighten the left leg. So lifting the hips, slide the hips back. If it works for you and your hamstrings and your calves, maybe you lift your left toes and the ball of the foot off of the floor. And your left hand can come to the foot and pull back on the toes and the ball of the foot a little bit as you get a little more deeply into your calf muscles there. So breathing into it. All right, and let's release. Go ahead and set the foot down, bending back into the left leg. And now go ahead and step your back foot forward. Come to forward fold. Top of the mat, open the palms, hug the midline, and inhale, reach your arms out and up and overhead as you find your way back into your mountain pose. Hands to heart center. Keep the connection between your thumbs and your heart chakra. And just imagine that you can actually breathe through your thumbs. You can feel the pulsation of the heart, the respiration, pace. And then go ahead and release your arms. Just open your palms to face forward and just take a moment to send your entire physical vehicle a message of love and gratitude. Isn't it extraordinary that we've all chosen to embody and be on the planet at this time so that we could be of our most high service to one another? Whatever that looks like for us right now, and whatever we're working with in our own journey, all of it can be simultaneous, right? And we may be in lots of different locations as well. So anyway, I know that's out there for most of you. So, all right, we'll let that be. Let's inhale, take the arms up and overhead. Exhale, take another forward fold here, Uttanasana. So bend your knees. We're going to take the feet out nice and wide. I realize you may have to turn on your mat, but take your feet out wide for a nice wide-legged forward fold. Once you have the feet wide, go ahead and walk your hands back between the legs. Prasarita Padottanasana. And then walk your hands back underneath the shoulders. All right, so now bend your knees just a little bit and turn the toes out and the heels in. Bring your forearms up onto your inner thighs and just give the legs a little encouragement to open here. So we go a little deeper at the inner thighs, pull the belly in and up, and try to get your knees more directly over the ankles as much as you can. And make sure your knees are looking in the same direction that your toes are looking in. Right, so you don't have your knees rolling in. Now lift your bottom, bring your hands to the floor again, and we're going to walk over toward the right foot, bending into the right knee, and the right hand is going to rest right against the arch of the foot. The arm is going to press against the inner leg as we take this kind of half squat over to the right. Pick up your left toes if that's possible. But keep using that right arm to keep the knee open. It has a tendency to roll in. And then feel free, if it works for you, you can bring your hands into a prayer position here. You really do want your right foot to be completely on the floor. If it doesn't work for your knee to bend this deeply, then just keep yourself elevated. Or you could even put a block underneath your right buttock here. Now bringing the hands to the floor, lift your hips. And walk your hands over toward your left foot. My left foot is open about 45 degrees, maybe a little bit more than that. And take your left hand to the arch of the foot, bend into the knee, and shift all the weight over into a half squat to the left. So the left foot should be completely grounded on the floor, tipping up the right toes. So just be there for a moment. Now, it may be for some of you that you can bring the hands to prayer, and some of us, maybe not so much. Keep yourself lifted up a little higher. If it's too much of a bend in the knee, keeping the hands on the floor. All right, and then hands to the floor. Go ahead and lift your hips. Great, now we're going to shift the right foot open 90 degrees, left toes in. We're going to come into a triangle pose. So walk your hands over towards your right foot and take the right hand outside of your foot and open up right into Trikonasana. So breathing, pulling the belly in and up, the low ribs down, the sides of the neck back. Great, so now if we're going to go ahead and come into half moon pose, do a little balancing. So bringing the left hand to the hip, you can look down, and we'll start to shift the weight onto that right foot, lifting the left leg. So you can keep your gaze down to the floor if that works better for you in your balance, or you turn and open to look forward. Breathing into it. Feel free to work with Arden Chandrasana, bending into the left leg, taking hold of the left foot or ankle. Pushing the foot back against the hand as you open up the pose. Pulling the sides of the neck back, making it a little bit of a back bendy, thigh stretchy, standing bow. All right, now go ahead and release your left foot. We'll step back into triangle pose, but then you're gonna walk your hands out in front, pivot your feet all the way around to the other side to set up for this triangle pose. With the left foot turned open 90 degrees, the right foot turned in a little bit. And then the left hand finds its way to wherever you like to have it to open into Trikonasana to the left. So finding your triangle pose, facing the opposite direction. Strong legs, strong belly, sides of the neck back. Good, so let's go ahead and bring the right hand to the hip. We're gonna come into Arden Chandrasana, half moon pose. So bending into the left leg, shift forward, lift your right leg, find your balance. Turning to look forward when it suits you, or if it suits you. Externally rotating your standing leg. Push down evenly into the foot so you can really kind of float your weight above your hip. And then we'll come into Ardha Chandra Chapasana if you have it in your wheelhouse today. If not, you can always step out of the pose, right? I see a lot of movement out there. Okay. Push the foot back against the hand. Pull the sides of the neck back. Oh yeah, getting into those hip flexors for me. Wow. All right, and then we'll release the foot. Step yourself back into a triangle stance with the legs. And then we'll start to turn open again, take the right arm up, and we'll come right up to standing now. Releasing the arms down. Give yourself a bend into the right leg, and then spin the feet to parallel. And step your feet back into about a hip distance width, bringing your hands to prayer. So see how this feels, right? Often we do a practice that's very slow and we stay in poses for long periods of time, and that's a great way to practice. Sometimes we move a little more quickly so that we can really move some energy through the vehicle a little bit and kind of get a little bit more purging energy, right? So today we're kind of trying to get that. We're trying to get a little bit more pushing out, right? Okay, so now, right, now we're going to go to the wall and we're going to get ourselves upside down. So if you have a space where you can go to the wall, awesome. If you don't, and you have been working with maybe putting your feet up on a blanket or on a piece of furniture or something, you know, that's always an option as well. So for this first inversion to do, obviously, you all know that if it feels like it's going to suit you best to lay down and put your legs up the wall, then that's an awesome practice to do. So feel free to do that if that just feels like your better choice. Otherwise, we're going to try an inversion with the arms straight. So feel free to set yourself up for a handstand or for a box pose if you have the space to do that or the inclination to do that today, right? So we're setting up for either one. You want your, well, if you're in box pose, your feet are more toward the wall. I'm going to work in a handstand, so let's all just work a little independently now here. If you're in a handstand, make sure you're pressing down into the floor with your hands and not taking all that weight underneath your wrists. And when you do come down, just have a rest, lower your head. All right, and then please bring yourself up. Okay, so now We're going to go ahead and do the pose where we take a block and a blanket, and we tuck the folded blanket into the corner at the wall to open up the shoulders here. So I'm taking my folded blanket, and so half of it is on the floor, half of it is crawling up the wall there, and I've got a crease kind of down the center of that. And then I'm going to take a block, and the block is going to go vertically between my hands, and then I'm going to hold the block like this. All right, so it's going to go right down the center of my back. And I'll put my elbows down into the crease of the blanket at shoulder distance with the block against my back. And then you lift your knees, walk your feet in. I gotta take this clip out of my hair. Until your back is pressing against the block. So again, there's a fair amount of this that has to do with how your hamstrings are feeling at this point, but we've done a decent amount of forward folding, so hopefully they're well prepared. You don't have to have your legs completely straight, but it should feel pretty good to have the pressure of the block against your upper back. Make sure you're not trying to press your head through your feet. Sometimes that's just habit. And you want to still be kind of pulling the sides of your neck back. All right. And then we're going to step out of this pose. So walk the feet back and set your knees down. Take your arms out of this position and just rest in a child's pose for a moment. Okay. Now from here, we're going to do either a dolphin pose or dolphin variation, or we can kick up into Chandrasana, peacock feather. And so in order to set up for this, you can have your arms in any number of configurations. I realize when we're in the studio, it's a little easier to show you these things. You can have your hands like this, your elbows at your shoulder distance, and that's your foundation, right? You can have your hands a little bit wider and have your thumb and index fingers around the short end of the block, just to put a little space there. Or if you want to challenge yourself more, then you have a block between your hands like this, the thumb and index fingers around the edges of the block horizontally. And you'll know, because as soon as you set yourself up, you'll see when you come up into your dolphin configuration whether or not it's working for you. And if it's not, you just stay in the dolphin and you don't try to kick up, right? So I'm going to push this, because I can't kick up over there, I'm going to kick up at my door here. And put my block here horizontally, thumbs and index fingers around it, forearms parallel and elbows under the shoulders as best as I can figure that. All right. Wow. So you might spend a little time in that dolphin pose. If you're here, I can feel there's some tightness in my shoulders. My shoulders are not completely prepared for this, so I need to spend a little time here. And then once they feel like they've loosened up a little bit, maybe you kick up. Okay. And I'm not going to spend 20 minutes in the pose, but just take a rest. If you haven't yet, resting your head, keeping your head low. Okay. Now, while we have the blanket over near the wall, you might have pulled it out of the way in order to come back to your Pigeon Pose, but we're going to come back to possibly doing the thigh stretch with the knee right against the baseboard. So if you need a pair of blocks, you may want to have them nearby, just depending on how your thighs are feeling at this particular time. But this is the one where you'll come down onto your hands and your knees. Bring your right knee back, right into the fold of the blanket so that the foot is pointing straight up the wall. And then either you walk your hands back on a pair of blocks to get as vertical as you can, or you bring your left leg up into a lunge position and come into your thigh stretch this way. The top of the right foot doesn't tend to be all that happy about this configuration. And if it's just torture for the foot, then you can skip it or just maybe move your knee forward a little bit, see if that doesn't help. Pull the belly in and up. Move your hips back a little bit. See if your arms can go up. Belly up. Low ribs down. Sides of the neck back. All right, and then we'll release it. So go ahead and come on down. If you have your left leg into a lunge, you'll bring that knee down first and then bring the back knee away from the wall. Okay, so other side, let's bring the left knee in. Right, into the corner of the blanket or the inner edge of that blanket. Bring the other leg up into a lunge leg and then see about coming up into your thigh stretch here. Yeah, and I can see there's someone who's standing and doing their thigh stretch. That's an awesome option, right? So if it's just not working for you to do thigh stretching because you have knee things going on, it's a nice variation to give yourself a little bit more control over it, right? This is just, your knees just aren't quite having it right now. If you're here in your thigh stretch, at the wall, arms maybe go up and overhead, and then work your abdominal bracing. Low belly in and up, low ribs down, sides of the neck back. All right, and then we'll go ahead and release. Bring the right knee down. Okay. All right, so now we're gonna set ourselves up for a pigeon pose. So you can take your pigeon, you can leave your mat right where it is if you would like. If pigeon is not your thing, coming into an eye of the needle or a deer pose would be probably a little more of an ideal pose for you. So let's choose wisely here and set ourselves up. Now, if you're coming into a pigeon pose, let's go ahead and bring the right knee forward, over near the right edge of the mat. So your foot comes in fairly close to the groins. Square your hips, have a look at your back leg to make sure it's pretty parallel to the edge of the mat, and then feel free to come forward. Down onto the forearms. Pulling the front knee back and the back knee forward if you're in your pigeon prep. And breathing. So just bring your awareness to this Jalandhara Bandha here. So you're going to pull the sides of the neck up toward the ceiling a little bit, and as if you've just got a little bit of a lift at the base of the skull to keep the neck long. The right foot is just so active, it's pressing down into the floor. And then start to lift up and walk your hands in towards yourself. All right, so we've already done a thigh stretch just moments ago. It's pretty intense, but we're going to bring ourselves into the variation of this with the thigh stretch anyway. So bringing the right hand to the floor, reach back with your left hand. Now, as you work with this, because you've been in this thigh stretch just a moment ago, maybe you decide you want to bring the foot in and try to slide your foot down into the crook of the elbow so that you could maybe even start to turn your chest forward. And this is like a modified mermaid pose, or maybe that right arm reaches back and you can hook your fingertips as you press the foot into the elbow crease. Pull the low belly in and up. Even here, can you press the ribs down? All right, and then we'll go ahead and release. And let's step back to a downward facing dog. Oh yeah. All right, other side when you're ready, bringing your left knee forward, coming into your pigeon prep on the other side. Super strong legs, super strong edge of the left foot down into the floor, and come down onto the forearms if that works for you. Great. Excellent. If you're an eye of the needle, feel free to work whatever variation of this works best for you. If you want to take the hands behind the thigh, to the front of the shin, whatever it is. Okay, and walk your hands back in towards yourself as we find the thigh stretching version of this. So taking the weight to the left hand, reach back with the right hand. Pull the front knee back and the back knee forward, and maybe you just bring the heel in a little closer to the outer hip, or you slide the foot into the crook of the right elbow and turn both palms up. Turn your chest forward. So there's just this variation of mermaid pose. Yeah. Maybe that left arm reaches over and takes a hold of the right hand. That's not going to happen for me today. Pull the belly up. All right, let's go ahead and release. Bring the hands down. We'll find our way to downward facing dog. Get some nice length through the spine. See if you can push the sitting bones up a little bit, keeping your knees bent. Okay, and then go ahead and set your knees down on the floor. All right, so we're going to take, well, let's see, time's just a fly in here. We're just going to come down now onto our backs. We're going to do a bridge pose, and then we'll have the opportunity to do a full wheel pose if you would like to press up onto the hands. So go ahead and come down onto your back. And as we set up for this bridge pose, make sure you don't have anything lifting the head. You could have something under the shoulders, but not the neck and head here. And then setting your feet up. You can have the arms right in toward the side ribs. You could bend the elbows if you like that approach. And then press down into the backs of the arms and elbows and scoot the shoulder blades in. So you automatically start to get a lift up through the thoracic part of your spine. Press down into your feet and lift your hips up. Bring the hands down. And then coming in toward the midline a little bit more with the shoulders, so you've got a little bit more of a foundation for yourself. Push into the feet and lift your hips up. Keep your chin lifted as best you can. Now we're going to shift the weight to the left foot, draw the right leg in, and take the right foot up toward the ceiling. Push down with the left foot and reach up through the right. And then step the right foot down, draw the left knee in, and take the left leg straight up toward the ceiling. Push down through your right foot. And release. And set both feet on the floor. Lower your hips down. Scoot your shoulders out from underneath you. And just take a rest. If you feel a burning urge to bring your knees in, feel free to go there if you like. All right, and then setting your feet down on the floor. Now you have the option to either just take a little mini Shavasana. Legs can come down and you just rest with your hands on maybe your ribs and your belly. Or if you're just feeling like you really want one more back bend, you can set your hands alongside of the ears as long as Urdhva Dhanurasana is in your wheelhouse. If not, then it's perfectly fine to skip it. Like I said, take a mini Shavasana or do a bridge pose if you prefer, right? And then from here, come into your back bend, whatever that is. And then coming down and having a rest. You can widen your feet, let your knees drop in and rest against one another so the lower body is in constructive rest. And again, maybe one hand on the lower ribs, one hand on the lower belly. So just check in with yourself, whatever pose you're in right now. And just sit with that inquiry. What does your heart want you to know? What needs to be expressed through you? And is there a disconnect between what your heart says, what your mind says, and how it's getting expressed through the throat chakra in between? All right, so take your time now. Don't lose any information that you may have just gleaned or absorbed, and then just take your time to roll to your side and find your way back up to a seated position. All right, it's almost time for us to take Shavasana here. So I'll tell you what, if you would like to lay on your back, and we're going to do a little bit of chanting for our final moments here. So you can either sit upright and chant with me and end with meditation, or you can lie in your Shavasana and actually even chant from there, or you just lie down and listen if you prefer. So you can choose what feels like the better pathway for you at this particular moment. So we are in I think the second 3 days of Navaratri, toward the end of that. So we're still in the Lakshmi phase of the celebration of the feminine divine in the Hindu tradition. And so I would like to chant Om Shrim Maha Lakshmiye Swaha. We chanted this on Tuesday. We're still in this Lakshmi phase. And one of the things that I think is absolutely stunning about this energy is that this is each one of us to be in this life. We have been given a tremendous amount of gifts that we can find ourselves in our homes. Look around you, look at all the gifts that you've been given. The abundance is astonishing, right? And then to be in this body right now, what a huge gift to be surrounded by all of the beauty that we receive, and to be able to sit and be in a position where we have the opportunity to look from a wider perspective at our lives. Right? None of us in this room right now are worried about whether or not we're going to be able to have lunch today. So just being in this situation gives us the unbelievable, and I know that this is a hot word right now, but it's a privilege to be able to be in this position, to look at our lives and step back and be able to do this spiritual work. Right? So as we're stepping into this, saying, oh, I fully acknowledge with the wholeness of my being, the incredible gifts and abundance that I've been given in this life. May I use these gifts for the greater good of everyone, heal the wounds that exist within me, and offer my gifts through my unique voice to everyone around me. So this is my gift and my prayer to Lakshmi, right? So we'll just chant this mantra a few rounds here before we end our class today. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Swaha. 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 One more. Om Shri Mahalakshmi Swaha. Om Shanti. 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 So please bring your awareness now back to your body. Keeping your eyes closed and just feeling your breath just pulsating. As you bring it in through your nose, feeling how the inhale affects everything else. The lift through the heart, the belly. If you really focus, you might even feel it in your toes. Feel free to bring a little bit of movement now if you're in Shavasana. And then please take your time to bend your knees, roll to your side, and slowly come on up to a seat. All right. Please bring your hands to Anjali Mudra. I send so much deep love and gratitude to all of my teachers. An incredible gift and abundance that I have been given to be here with you all doing this practice. Unbelievable gift. I could not be more grateful. So thank you so much for coming to your mat, for doing your practice. What a great gift you give the world when you do your practice. Now more than ever, my friends. So thank you. Om Shanti. Namaste.